Welcome, Hotshots, to Flashlight by Firepower X. Here you can find the industrial strength tools you need to dominate your personal and professional wellness as a firefighter. My name is Jess. I'm your host for today, and it's my absolute pleasure to introduce today's special guest, Dana Harrison. She's a nutritionist and educator who is based in Massachusetts, and she received a bachelor's degree in biology from Vassar College and her master's in nutrition science from the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Dana is the founder of the Cultural Shift Method, which is a nutrition education program that makes nutrition, health, and wellness easy, individualized, and attainable. Welcome, Dana. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I always love to start with people's origin stories. So, how did nutrition get its hands on you?
Oh my goodness. So my background is really in just science in general. I really loved biology and pre-med. Second semester of senior year, right when I was applying to med school, I said, you know what? This isn't for me. And I took a nutrition class. I said, I think I really like this and I love eating and science in general. So how can I combine them? So I went into
Mhm.
nutrition.
That sounds very similar to my story. I started in pre-med too, so I understand the bail.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I have a special little game prepared for us. If you're open to it, are you ready to play
I'm ready.
truth or myth? I think I
Okay.
warned you this might be coming. So I just wrote down 5 statements about nutrition that I would love for you to clear up for our audience and for me as either this is truthful, yes, there's some fact in this, or that's a total myth, Jess. So I'll go ahead and read them one by one, and you can say truth or myth, and then if you want to elaborate, that would be great. So are you ready?
Yeah, I'm
All right,
ready.
all right, let's do it. Okay. So the first one, truth or myth, it's more expensive to eat healthy.
Oh my goodness. That is the number one complaint that I get that it's too expensive to eat healthy.
Hmm?
So my goal is to show that it really can be a myth. And that's what I work on with fire departments, even non-firefighters, just showing how we can eat healthy on a budget and make it realistic for whatever budget you have.
Hmm. All right, so can we call that one busted? That's a myth.
Yeah. Yeah, I would
Okay.
say that's a myth, and I will like absolutely say it's getting harder and harder right
Hmm.
now, candidly, with the cost of groceries, but it's something that I really showcase in my work and make it feasible for firefighters. So I'm going to
Hmm.
go with let's make that a myth.
All right, awesome. Busted. Okay, the second one. The food pyramid hasn't changed too much between when we were kids and now.
Okay, so we don't have the food pyramid anymore.
Oh, well,
So
there.
but it's okay. In my opinion, it was nonsense. So now we have something called My Plate, which is more of an illustration to show you what your plate should really look like with all of the food groups and how much
Mhm.
food you should be eating. If you eat 3 meals a day, how many servings of fruit, vegetables, protein, etc., would be a part of that.
Hmm. That sounds way easier to adhere
Yeah.
to. The food pyramid always just, yeah.
No, it is way easier, I think, for a learning technique, but I will tell you that when I first go to fire departments and we do a nutrition lecture, that's one of the questions when we go over the food groups. I'll ask, raise your hand if your plate looks like this, 3 times a day, 2 times a
Hmm.
day, 1 time a day. And it's quite hard for people to reach that. So
Interesting. Yeah, I would love to learn more about that. I didn't even know about my plate, so thank you for
you're welcome.
for shedding some light on that. All right. So I would say that one is also busted. Number 3, if I eat a lot of fat, I will get fat. Truth or myth?
Oh my gosh, myth. I'm so passionate about that one. As someone who grew up in the 90s where fat was considered bad, like all types of fat. There are different types of fat and they impact our body differently. We can absolutely use fat for fuel and get so many positive benefits from fat. So I'm going with myth for that
Mhm.
one.
Awesome. It's such a relief also having grown up in the 80s.
Yeah.
Oh, I like fat. It tastes good.
Yeah, absolutely. And it keeps us full longer. So there's
Yes.
the purpose there too.
Yes. All right. We're just busting myth today. Number four, supplements are a scam and you just pee them out. Truth or myth?
Oh my gosh, we're going with myth again. I guess this one is actually could be either way. So it depends what supplement you're taking because water soluble supplements, once we hit a certain point of like 100% or so, or what our body's going to use, then we
Mhm.
do pee them out. Whereas our fat soluble supplements, like our vitamins A, D, E, and K, those are ones that we store. So I think it's just important to understand the quality of the supplement, take a look at the ingredients. If there's any third-party testing, you really want to make sure that if you're taking something that you have what you're taking, the actual supplement that you're taking, right? That it is what it says it is. So, yeah, that's another myth because I'm going to give it to a good quality supplement, but it should be something in addition to your diet. It's something that's
Mm.
missing instead of just taking something just to take it. I think that's really important.
Yeah, like you can't eat junk and just take a bunch of supplements to make
Yeah,
up for it.
exactly.
It's good that we're talking today. Clearly, I needed to talk to you. And my last one, number five, many
Okay.
chronic illnesses can be remedied with nutrition. Truth or myth?
Here we go, truth.
Yay!
I'm so happy that you put that one in. I think it's so important for us to understand that what we eat really impacts our health. So, my background is in both conventional and functional nutrition, and functional nutrition is just seeing how food can improve our health and have
Mhm.
optimal health and prevent disease or treat disease. So, that
Mm.
one is a big truth.
Mhm. Are there any big five diseases that you think of right away that your first line of defense would be nutrition, like change your diet right now?
Gosh, honestly, everything but anything involving inflammation, to be candid.
Okay.
95% of disease is related to inflammation. And
Mhm.
if I'm talking about just the fire service in particular, I automatically go to things like heart disease, metabolic conditions like type 2 diabetes, as well as dietary cancers. I think those are the top three that I instantly go to.
Great. Well, I only had five facts for you today, so thank you for playing. We
You're
got
welcome.
we.
You put me on the spot.
I know it's just fun to throw that out there, and that was what just came up in my head. So I'm sure in our viewers' heads, they might be thinking the same thing. I'm not afraid to say the dumb stuff on camera and
Oh,
ask for
nothing's
clarification.
dumb.
So awesome. I know you and I talked offline about diet versus lifestyle. And what is the difference between those two when we are ready to make a change in our nutrition? What do we need to realize?
Yeah, I think you need to really focus on the idea of is this something that you can do for a short term or a long term? So,
Mhm.
a lifestyle is going to be something that you can stick with. You're going to be consistent with it. It's really where I say the magic happens. You're going to see those results and have them be long term if it's a lifestyle choice.
Mhm.
Whereas a diet is usually a short term or a quick fix can be very popular within the fire service because it's like an all or nothing mentality, right? So diet is really short term and it isn't something that you could do forever, whereas lifestyle is something that you just continue with as long as you can.
Mhm. When you say it's popular in the fire service and you see it a lot, what do you
Yeah.
mean by that? Are you talking like carnivore, keto? What do you mean behind the scenes?
Yeah, behind the scenes, I would say anything that is just something that you're not doing for a long period of your time, even just like for the rest of your life. So, for instance, I always say something like meal plans don't work. And the reason why I say that is because are you going to continue to eat that way all day, every day for the rest of your life? So, that is something that is a diet change, specifically a quick fix. There are so many diet versus behavior changes. You touched on a few like the keto diet, the carnivore diet. Those are typically things that are used short term, although I've seen the ketogenic diet long term and it's done really well in regards to optimal health and prevention of disease. It has to be nutritionally sound. So I think that's one really big thing is that whatever you're doing, it has to be nutritionally sound and it has to be something that you can continue to do as long as you want, really.
Mhm. How do you know if it's nutritionally sound? Do you use my plate or do we
Yeah,
need to consult a professional like you? How do we know?
Yeah, you could consult a professional for sure, but I think even if you are one to food journal and just kind of see what you're eating and what the nutrients look like, the vitamins, the macronutrients, so your protein, carbs, fat, what that really looks like, I think that gives a bigger picture to the entire equation.
Yeah, that is really helpful. So you work a lot in the kitchen of firehouses, right? And not as the cafeteria lady, but as the educator.
Yes.
How can we leverage the special spot of the kitchen, because it's all our favorite place in the firehouse, to introduce better habits? What are some things we could start with today if you're listening to this podcast?
Well, I think firefighter health starts in the kitchen. Everyone's health starts in the kitchen, but especially with a group of people that really use that downtime to cook and eat when you have it. I think it's really important just to focus on getting back to basics. Nutrition has become so complicated over the years, but if we're really just eating real food and checking what's in our food, I think that's the biggest step to really just taking health into your own hands in the fire service or even just at home.
And I've always heard the general rule that if you don't know how to pronounce the ingredient, it's probably
Yeah.
not good for your body. Would you say that's true when you're looking at ingredient lists and what's actually in your food?
I would say most of the time, yeah, that's true. I think the exception tends to be something like a vitamin or supplement that can be thrown in there. But yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. If you can't pronounce it, then usually it just probably shouldn't necessarily be in there. It's usually some type of sugar or additive, like a preservative. So in that case, we don't need those things. Why include them if you don't have to?
What do you find is the biggest challenge for firefighters for eating well and nutrition? What do they really get hung up on?
Oh gosh, do I have to pick one thing?
You can list more than one. Tell us the hurdles that are we can get over.
I think the first thing is just understanding that whatever you're going to do, you have to make it feasible and attainable for you. I think sometimes we all have just big goals and we don't necessarily follow through with them because they aren't honest and realistic. So I think that's just the biggest thing I would say to start with. I will say that I notice a lot, especially around like the holiday time, all the way up to the middle of January or so. There are a lot of community donations, and we know that as community members, we want to say thanks, and usually gratitude comes in the form of food. And
Mhm.
sometimes that food is leftovers from a party,
Mhm.
or it's something that you actually made for the firefighters who are working on shift. So I think that sometimes there's an abundance of extra food just on the counter. I say to firefighters, how many times does it take you to walk by that food before you actually eat it? Main suggestion for that is you can still eat it, but put it away and make that decision to actually go and have that piece of cake that was left over on the counter kind of thing. I'm going with those two. If you need more, I'm happy to list more.
Sure, give us one or two more other challenges that are particular to the fire service.
Yeah, I think that a big challenge that might be relatable is just the idea of the time constraint with preparing food and then not knowing when you're going to get a call. The worst is when you prepare this awesome meal and you're about to sit down to eat it and then you get
Mhm.
a call. So I think one of the biggest things is for me is to really get to know the departments that I'm working with and what their struggles are in regards to time and what kitchen appliances they have. Like for instance, if they have a slow cooker, that's a great option. Or if we're going to use the grill or the stove top, what are some quick and easy options for them to make so that if they do get a call, they can shut the stove off, go to the call, come back, and get right back to it, and food is almost done, kind of thing.
A slow cooker is great for that, and they're
Yeah.
so affordable. You can pick one up at the thrift store for $10 or Walmart or wherever. How did you get into working with firefighters? I want to back up a
Yeah.
little bit and ask that because I'm sure there's an interesting story there.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay. So I taught at UMass Amherst, and when I was graduating with my master's, I decided that I didn't know what I was going to do and I was looking for jobs and honestly couldn't find a job that combined nutrition and exercise with what I really wanted to do. I worked with a client, a nutrition client at the time who happened to be a firefighter,
Mhm.
and he actually took the plan that I created for him to work one day, and his captain was looking over and saw what he was doing, and they just started talking about it, and this is who I am and what I do, and would I be a potential fit to come in and teach firefighters anything about nutrition? And that's really how it started. I just went in and I said to myself, if I could teach college students, I could teach anyone. And the chief sat me down and said, if you can teach firefighters, then you can teach anyone. And so I really took that to heart and I just decided, what if I make a career out of this? Because it was so cool. I think I saw there were a lot more challenges and barriers in general to eating healthy, I think, for firefighters. And so once I saw that in person, I really wanted to attack those barriers and make this a career.
That's fantastic. It's interesting that having the kitchen be so special to us, that that piece is now just starting to come online for a lot of fire departments and paying more attention to what's in the fridge.
What needs to be thrown out?
Yes, yes. And then the bad habits that we can have
Yeah.
together. The tendency is always, let's go eat junk food, or we just ran a bad call. Let's go get ice cream. I find that whatever bad habits you have rubs off on each other when you're on shift. So,
Yeah. But just like you said, that positive habits can also be contagious too. That's what I like to
mhm.
say because you're totally right. The negativity can absolutely run through a fire department pretty quickly. But what about positivity? So that's what I
Exactly. No, it does work both ways.
like.
And as far as nutrition and longevity, let's
Yeah.
touch on that a little bit. What would you like firefighters to know about nutrition and longevity?
Well, I started thinking about longevity just through my work with firefighters when I noticed that there was this huge conversation of really not just focusing on the now, but also living past retirement. I
Mhm,
think for the longest time it was let's focus on now and then let's get to retirement. But what about past retirement? And that really has to do with longevity and, feeling our best as we age and being disease free. So that really has become a huge focus of mine when I'm working with both fire department clients and non-fire department clients is really just saying, okay, this is where we're at now, and these are the habits that we want to adopt, but we're not just doing it for now, we're doing it for our future selves. I think
mhm,
that's really important.
mhm. Yeah, we do tend to lose sight of that. The here and now is so exciting and fast paced, and we often don't think about retirement, us, and what that version will be eating.
Yeah. At this point, I've been doing this for 12 years now, and
Mhm,
I have seen people who are younger and then about to reach retirement. And, your priorities are so different from when you're in your early 20s to maybe you're in your late 40s to early 50s in
mhm,
regards to your health and eating. And so just really focusing on the idea that we've all want to get to retirement and then live past retirement and do so in a really healthy way and have not just a lifespan, but more so have a health span, which is just our general state of health and hopefully being disease free.
mhm. Does food affect your mood?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
know it does.
I know it. That was part of my own learning about my own body.
Oh, it definitely does. Good mood food, or we always say stressed is dessert spelled backwards. That's what we say. So, yeah, absolutely. Food can impact your mood. I really like to showcase how food can impact your stress response, especially, and how we can improve that through food and having foods that are healing and calming, and just ones that are going to impact your mindset and mental health and just health in general. So, yes, absolutely, food impacts your
Mhm.
mood.
Yes, so many of us have opinions on food because
Mm.
we do. How do you break through people's differing opinions when you're trying to teach them or educate them about nutrition?
Yeah, we all have opinions on food because we all eat. So I really come in and I'm someone who's, yes, this source of information and very knowledgeable, but I'm coming at it from a very individualized and you do you type of mentality. I'm not here to come into a fire department and say, don't eat this, don't eat that, remove this type of situation. This is good, this is bad. I'm really here to be approachable and make it work for you. And I think that is something that is just so important that has taken my program to where it is today, from where I started to where I am now, just really focusing on understanding that we all eat. There are going to be some people who are way more resistant than other people, especially if this is someone, me in particular. I'm not a firefighter, I'm outside of the fire service. Coming in and educating on a topic that can be super controversial, I think it's just important to have an approachable mindset, and that's what I try and do.
Controversy. What kind of controversy have you encountered?
Oh my goodness. I don't even know if I can say it on this podcast without, without getting a response from anyone who listens who knows, and it's them.
Can you keep it general for us? Is it just differing opinions on what's good for us versus bad for us?
Yeah, I mean, I think people just understandably have really strong opinions. And I think in regards to the entire nutrition field over the years, like we were saying earlier, fat was once considered so bad, and
Yeah.
now it's not. And I think that things flip-flop all of the time. And so what I like to share with people is that when you're looking at those diets and lifestyles, for instance, is whether it's keto, let's say Mediterranean diet, Atkins, any of the bigger name ones, the things that they have in common is that usually you're eating whole foods. You're eating your animal protein, your healthy fats, your fruits, your vegetable. Maybe you're having dairy or grains, for instance. So it's really just important, in my opinion, to focus on understanding these are the basics. And if you want to add things here and there, go for it, but let's just keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
And also just understanding you can look at nutrition as being so complicated, and a lot of times things can even be anecdotal. What worked for me might work for you, and that's awesome. But a lot of other times they're super individualized, and what works for me does not work for you. So I would say to get rid of that controversy, it's just
Mm-hmm.
to really keep it simple and approach things with an open mindset instead of being closed-minded with nutrition.
Well, and I think the public has lost a lot of trust in nutrition information because it does flip-flop so
Yeah.
constantly. Like you said, in the 40s and 50s, they told us sugar was energy and eat a candy bar before you run.
Yeah.
And then in the 80s and 90s, it was like fat is bad. And then Dr. Atkins died of a heart attack from his own way of eating. What do I believe? It just seems like it's constantly changing. And so, how do you know what's true or not? Would you suggest taking a more individualized approach of just trying it out, like seeing how you feel? Is that a good indicator of knowing if a nutrition change is good for you?
Yeah, I think that's the best indicator, really using yourself as your own experiment. Because maybe something isn't in a random control trial or a study that you're looking at, and maybe you're not going to get the same results as they did in that study. So I like to say, use yourself as the experiment. What works for you might not work for someone else. Even with something like food sensitivities or something that just might bother my stomach or create some sort of symptom might not do the same for someone else. So trial and error, super important in nutrition in general. And so doing that and focusing on yourself and finding what works is part of the process to get to a lifestyle changes.
Yeah. As far as food sensitivities, we haven't touched on that today. What are some common signs and symptoms that you might have a food allergy you're not aware of?
Yeah, so food allergies are very different than food sensitivities. They
Hmm.
are both immune responses. Food allergies are a lot easier to diagnose and just to go off of compared to a sensitivity. More so because, yes, you're having that immune response, but the symptoms really do vary. So, for food sensitivities, the most common foods I see in my practice and within the fire service are definitely things like gluten, dairy, soy. Those are the top ones, but there are top food allergens. There are seven that I think you could focus on, but those are the top three that I usually see. And symptoms can absolutely range from GI upset to stiff joints,
Hmm.
brain fog. They're really different from each person, but those are the top ones I would say.
Yeah, and that's where nutrition becomes a really interesting way to solve whatever problems your body is experiencing. If you try switching up your diet and doing something different or adding, taking something out, I find sometimes those things go away. And that's when you realize maybe I had a sensitivity.
Yeah, absolutely. And the best way to really understand that is to use a food journal or just a journal. Write down, okay, this food made me feel like shit. So I
Hmm.
know that this is probably not something that I should continue to eat it, especially when I notice that when I do continue to eat it, I feel horrible every time.
Hmm.
Okay, that most likely is a food sensitivity or some sort of trigger that your body doesn't like. I would say just once again, it's using yourself as an experiment and really zoning in on that and listening to your body because if you're having some sort of symptom, then your body is telling you something,
Yeah,
right? It's not just there just because. So
exactly. Yeah.
figuring out why.
Hmm. Yes. Tell us a little more about the fun and exciting things you're doing with your business, because I know you've done some collaboration with local farms, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's actually was one of my biggest dreams when I started working and you're thinking of like where do I see my company in the future? I always wanted to do cooking workshops and when I first started cooking workshops were an absolute no across the board from most fire departments and I got to a point where I said, okay, nutrition lectures are amazing, but we get to a point where we have to apply the knowledge. And in my opinion, if I'm saying health starts in the kitchen, that's where we apply the knowledge and learn how to cook and make things taste great that might not taste great if you hadn't taken our class. So, what I wanted to do, especially once again, this is bringing in the financial or economic piece with food being more expensive. I really wanted to focus on collaborating with local farms, get the cost down to support the local economy. And what we found is that you can support the local economy, support these farmers, and have it be a lot less expensive, a lot cheaper than going to the supermarket. So
Hmm.
you're getting farm fresh produce that's nutrient dense and might have been picked like yesterday compared to picked so many months ago. And you're also supporting the local economy. So something that I do is I partner with local farms to basically bring in their produce. I'll get a list of their produce and what it is going to be for the month of September, for instance, since I just did one. And then I would look at it and say, okay, I think I would like to use this fruit and vegetable because I know it's going to be a hit. And then I'll say, let's throw in an extra that I don't know how it's going to go over, but at least I'll try. And sometimes it really goes over, honestly, really well. I found that in my last cooking workshop. I did not think grilled cabbage would go over well, but I said I'm going to throw that out there and it was really popular. So you just never know. But I think for me, it's just working locally as much as possible and making it easy so that then the firefighters who I'm working with can also support locally if they want to as well.
What a great program. That sounds really fun. A way to get closer to your community, like eating the
Yeah.
stuff that came out of the soil just down the road. That's awesome. Do you find firefighters have refined palates? Are they picky eaters, or do you find that they actually are deep down they're foodies? What have you seen?
My goodness, we have a combination of both. I'd say every department I've ever worked with has a combo of both. I have groups where they love a bunch of options, and then groups that say, give us two options, that's it. We don't want anymore because it's too much to think about. So I think it really just depends. A lot of the time, I will say that firefighters are trying something new for the first time, like trying a new vegetable or new animal protein,
Hmm.
and maybe they're hesitant. And so that's where I come in and create a recipe that has to be approved by them. Otherwise, I like to say I really don't think I'd have this job at this point. If it wasn't firefighter approved, people wouldn't eat it. That's a big no. So
Ah,
yeah, we have a combo. I like to go in with a plan very
mhm.
much, but I will tell you that sometimes that plan goes through and sometimes it's just the foodies take over and here are the ingredients and they do their own thing and I'm just here to help along the way or answer any nutrition questions. It completely depends.
Yes, there are more dominant people in the kitchen who have
Yeah.
a hard time letting go of control. I am one of them, admittedly, for better or worse. Yeah, these recipes you talk of, do you have a cookbook?
Yeah. So I like to create these formulas that are flexible formulas. People can plug in to the formula, like what each category is, so that they can
Mhm.
have a nutrient dense and balanced meal. And I came up with this idea of a cookbook because one day I was at a department and a chief said, you should just create a cookbook. And I said, Okay, sure. I just made one for the department and then people were asking and I said, okay, I'm going to make it available to the public, especially if you don't work with me. And really, it's just if I could put everything into a book that was really clear and concise and presented in a way that I think that firefighters really can relate to, it's this book. So the first half is a guidebook. It's all the nutrition education. And the second half is just recipes that have been firefighter approved throughout the work that I've done. So that's what I have, and it's called Flexible Food.
Oh, wow. I'm guessing it didn't take you 14 years like Julia Child did in the movie. I think of
No.
Julie and Julia, where she's like perpetually writing her cookbook and having to retest all of her recipes. Uh,
No, it didn't. I think it took me like 3 months to make it, but
wow, that's so fast.
I was collecting things over the years from things that had gone well. And then I did a beta test with people who were willing to come on and try the recipes before I released them to make sure it's very
Mhm.
important for me to make sure that people like the food that they're creating and that it's very easy and to the point, which is also, in my opinion, the firefighter way with
Mhm.
cooking.
Do you have a really popular dish that's your like ace in the hole that you, when you first start working with the fire department, you're like, okay, we're going to start with this because I know it's a winner.
I always start with some sort of grilling workshop. I usually
Mhm.
give departments an option. Maybe at this point, I have honestly 10 to 15 that I would say are really popular. So I'll say, here's a list. What ones do you want to do?
Mhm.
And usually grilling comes in on top. So recipes that, are really quick and easy and that incorporate animal protein, fruits, vegetables, and then extras if we want them in there.
Yes, that sounds like a winner. I mean, fire with firefighters, like you can't go
I
wrong with that.
know. I know. And then I always find that you're either a cilantro person or you're not. It's like a 50-50
Yep.
type of thing. People who love cilantro are really into, I make this spicy chimichurri sauce, and that always goes over really well. And people ask for it if I'm working with them long term. So I would say anything with like a great grass-fed flank steak or
Mhm.
any steak or even a burger, I would say goes really well with that sauce. And so that is constantly requested.
Meat. So I probably could have guessed that.
Yeah, meat. It is true. But I will say that sometimes I'll ask what type of animal protein do you want to focus on? And sometimes I'll have people just check the ones that apply, check all that apply. And sometimes I'll just bring in whatever I can find, for instance, that maybe is on sale so that we can hit that budget.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll bring in something that could be controversial, but was on the list. Controversial would be like salmon.
Really? It's controversial, really? Wow.
Yeah, salmon, because some people don't like fish,
Oh,
especially.
yeah.
And I always say fish should not smell like fishy. It's already gone.
Mhm.
So, okay, I'm going to bring in this fresh fish. You should be able to honestly put it up to your nose, like to your face. And if, you're not squeamish, then you'll be fine. If it doesn't smell, then you're good to go. Some people might be wary of having some of the things that they didn't actually think I would pick. So salmon was one of them. And then for some reason, there was salmon, chicken, and beef, for instance, and salmon was the first thing to go. So you just
Mhm.
never know.
Wow. See, I love salmon, but yeah. So what is the cultural shift method? I also glazed over that and I wanted to ask you, what is that? What does it mean?
Yeah. The cultural shift method is my nutrition programs for fire departments. And I created the name mostly from experience after really working with fire departments after 5 years or so. I could really understand that instead of focusing on these quick fixes, that we wanted to focus on sustainability and longevity. In order to do that, we're going to have some sort of shift in the culture, the firefighter culture, and really create something that is going to be feasible and attainable for them. That always involved nutrition education and budgeting in particular, is what I found.
Mhm.
Just adding things in there to change the culture for the better because we know that change takes time for everyone, but especially in the fire service.
Yeah. Do you have any tricks for change? I would guess that's one of the things that you use of like inspiring people to do something different is it tastes
Yeah.
good, right? But what other ways can we motivate ourselves to change?
Well, I think the first thing that I've noticed is that we have to be really honest with our expectations and the ability to really stick with something. If we go into some sort of dietary change and think, well, it's only going to be for a short-term period of time, then it's very different compared to something like, let me do this for the rest of my life. So
Yeah.
I think first you have to have that mindset shift before anything of just let me be honest with myself. If I'm not going to stop eating dessert or drinking alcohol, for instance, then how do I make it work within my diet? And you absolutely can. So I think
Mhm.
that's the biggest thing that I share with people is to be honest with yourself before we do anything else.
Yes. Something that helped me was because I'm keto and I don't do any sugar anymore. And I found whenever I craved sugar, I would do salt instead. I swapped it out for a salty snack. So that
Yeah.
helped me maintain keto. A food journal would probably help with being honest with yourself, right? Of really looking at your own habits.
Yeah,
Um,
I think food journals can be extremely helpful, but in my personal, humble opinion, food
mhm,
journals, once again, usually are short term. I never
okay.
really see someone doing them long term. Like it absolutely can happen, but I think long term for a lot of people becomes really overwhelming
Mm.
and doesn't feel like, oh, I want to log my food for the rest of my life. So
Yeah.
I think it totally depends on your personality because, like I said, what works for you might not work for someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe this is too deep of a question, but how do we get honest with ourselves? What do we look at? Do we look at like our weight over the years or how we felt when we're getting honest with ourselves about
Mhm.
what's needed to change? I think most people wait until, yeah, they're sick
Yeah,
or they have to change.
right.
So what
I
if,
think that you have to also look at your environment as well,
mm,
people who you're surrounded with, and if they're going to support your decisions or not,
mm,
especially within the fire service. I think that is probably one of the biggest things that makes you be honest with yourself. I'll ask the question, are you healthier on shift? Are you eating healthier on shift or off shift?
mm,
That's a big one because sometimes I find that people are eating healthier on shift, and sometimes I find the complete opposite, where when they're on shift, like whatever they're eating just or whatever lifestyle is tossed out the window. So I think that the environment piece is something that tends to be forgotten, and I think that it's really important.
yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
What else would you want firefighters to know that we haven't really touched on today?
Something that I want to stress is that nutrition doesn't have to be super complicated.
Mm,
That's the one thing that people really think it has to be complicated, so they're really intimidated before we start working together because nutrition just has to be hard. It has to be hard, it has to be expensive, it has to be something that doesn't work for me or the average person. But in
mhm.
reality, I think if we really focus on how do you make it work for you, I think that's where the sweet spot is.
Yeah, make it easy to fit into your lifestyle.
Yeah,
Totally.
absolutely.
And how have you changed from this journey? How is nutrition for you? How's it changed your life?
My gosh. I feel like I say my gosh because I'm always shocked by your questions.
Hopefully in a good way.
Yeah, no, in
Like,
a good way. So for me, I started with a conventional background with my master's of science, and I think it was around 2020 when most of us, not first responders, took a step back where things paused for a lot of us.
mhm,
I realized that as much as I liked conventional nutrition, that I thought there was a really big piece missing in my education, and that was functional nutrition, like really understanding that things like the fads or the food pyramid that were technically created within conventional nutrition maybe weren't for me or weren't for the people that I was serving.
mm.
And so I really wanted to focus on other education. And so getting other sources of education, going for functional nutrition certification, I think really just changed my outlook of understanding how we can really make food work for us and make us have optimal health or treating disease. So that really didn't happen until year 6 of me doing what I'm doing. But I think that it was really what I needed because right now I'm in this spot where I'm in the middle of really combining both conventional and functional nutrition and understanding in the coolest ways. We can look at all of these studies and what they say, but we also have to look at who's funding the studies and how many people were in the studies. Just really look at the parameters and understanding that, well, maybe, just maybe, it's best to look at the specific individual, really get to know them and what works for them versus what works for a study. I think
Yeah.
that's where my focus has really changed over the years.
Hmm. Can I ask, how do you eat? I'm guessing a lot of whole foods. Is that
Yes,
true? Yeah.
that's true.
I'm guessing okay, that's where my guesses end. That's it. Tell me the rest.
Whole Foods, yeah, I just love food. And I think that when I first say, hi, my name is Dana, I'm a nutritionist, if someone asks me what my job is, I think there are some common themes that I get back or responses. The first one is, you wouldn't want to see what I eat. The second one is, oh, I'm on a soy-free, dairy-free, gluten-free diet. Want to see? I'm like,
Mhm.
no, thank you. Um, And the third one is just cool. So, in regards to me and how I eat, I think that, yeah, I'm just focused on whole foods. If I want to eat something, I eat it without any sort of restriction. Like, I absolutely believe in food freedom. And my
Mm.
goal for my clientele and myself is to eat for both health and enjoyment instead of one or the other.
Oh, damn, that's a really good message to end on. I've only now arrived at that at 43. So many people have associated food with certain emotional responses. And if it doesn't feel good, yeah, you might be missing the point or have some healing potentially to do there. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. In my personal life and health journey, that's exactly where I'm at too, is it's been a lot of trial and error, but where I've come to at a point is really just the idea of understanding that I love food and I can eat it for health, but I can also eat it for enjoyment. That didn't just happen overnight. It came
Yeah.
from me understanding food as a science and
Mhm.
then understanding that I really like to eat it.
Yes. Yes, because you don't want to lose that. Life feels empty when you stop enjoying eating. Awesome. So, as we start to wrap things up, I always like to leave our viewers with one resource they can follow up this conversation with. What would you recommend our folks check out today?
I think that they can check out my website, eatstoknow.com.
Mhm.
And you could go to the blog. There's a whole section on firefighter nutrition, and there are a ton of resources there that are all free for people to check out.
Oh, fantastic. Are there recipes there as well that we could try out?
Yes, there are
Mhm.
tons of recipes for anyone to try. And those are all
Mhm.
good recipes, I promise.
Awesome. Is your secret chimichurri sauce on there as well?
It is not. It's in flexible food. It's called drinkable chimichurri because people say it's just so good. And we have different options, whether you want to make it a little sweeter or creamier, whether adding avocado, etc. Like we get really into that sauce because it's so popular, but I promise there are other options too.
I love that you differentiate people by cilantro lovers and cilantro
Yeah.
haters because it is genetic, right? Isn't there? It comes
Yeah.
down to your gene, whether
And
you
then
like it or not.
yeah, and for some people it tastes like soap, right? It
Yeah.
was funny because I had all of this extra cilantro from a cooking workshop that I did, and I ordered way too much from a farm, and I was trying to see who would take cilantro off my hands. So I already hooked the fire department up with the cilantro. So who else wants cilantro? So I sent out a mass text to a bunch of people, friends, family, and I said, I have all this cilantro. Who wants
Hmm.
cilantro?
Hmm.
No one.
Oh, really?
What? I picked the wrong people.
Uh-huh. See, I would have raised my hand if I was on that list because you can blend it up and freeze it, right? Kind of like with
Yeah.
pesto and like in an ice cube tray and have it for your chimichurri of the
Yeah,
future.
I did. That's what I did with it because I had so much of it. Or it's really good in a bunch of cabbage is really in season. So like slaws, it
Oh,
does really
yeah.
well with that. Anything with burritos, tacos. any
Mhm.
type. Yeah, I love cilantro, salsa.
Yes. Oh, food. Anyway, any closing thoughts, Dana, you want to leave us with today? Or final messages you really want us to hear?
Final messages, don't make it too complicated.
Yeah.
Understand that your health really starts in the kitchen,
Yeah.
and let's get back to basics, I would say.
Hmm. Yeah. And you can eat really well and healthy in a delicious way. You don't have to sacrifice taste, I think, for nutrition at all.
No, definitely not.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I know,
Yeah,
go for days if you want.
I know. I know. It's like scratch the surface here. All the links and information that Dana mentioned, I will link in the show notes below, guys. And if you're still with us and still watching, we appreciate you. You're amazing. And as always, my door is open. If you have any questions or comments after the show, you can follow up with me at info@firepowerx.com. And otherwise, we will see you in the next webinar. Thanks for watching.